lead by example. So that means I'm there on time, early, physically fit, mentally strong, spiritually straight, but every mission must be planned to a T. And when I say mission, that can be, I'm going to the store to get my groceries. Do I necessarily have to rehearse that? But what could be some contingencies that I run into? And that's every mission throughout the day or the year, even today, what I currently do. As far as the people, trust your people. You hired them for a reason, and everyone has a say. So from the junior guy to the senior guy, everyone's experience is very valuable. So going into a team, I entered the Marine Corps at 27, and I went through selection at 32, I believe. So most everyone was, if not everyone, was younger than me, and their life experience made the team much better.
Hey, let's welcome Joseph Wade, a 20-year Marine Corps Special Operations veteran with multiple combat deployments, now leading Asymmetric Solutions multi-state special ops training as the COO. Good to see you, sir.
How you doing, Danny? Thank you very much for inviting me to your show. A little about myself. I'm originally from just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Two older brothers, one in national security and one currently a state police officer in Pennsylvania. Soon after I graduated high school, I joined the Navy prior to the Marine Corps. 1995, joined the Navy, did 2 deployments to South America there as an operations specialist and a rescue swimmer. And I got out in 1999. After that, I went to Penn State University for art, and then I switched over to criminal justice. And soon after September 11th happened, I joined the Marine Corps in 2002. I originally signed up to be basic security forces, went into the school of infantry, switched over to the security forces, and then after that I went to 3-5, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, and deployed to Iraq soon after the push through Fallujah. After that, I was on the fence of getting out, and I was actually looking into law enforcement. I went and took a test for the sheriff's department there in California. And after looking into it a little more deep, I decided to talk to the career counselor in the Marine Corps, and they said a spot was open to instruct at a MARSOC school. At the time, special operations. I went there in 2006 and started assistant instructing in close quarters battle, hand-to-hand combat, all the kind of more close-in operations, the VBSS, which is boarding ships. And from there, I had an opportunity to go to the first individual training course for MARSOC, and I stayed in MARSOC until my retirement in 2018. During that time, I went to Afghanistan twice, went over to, again, the Middle East, and my primary focus was Southeast Asia before my retirement. That's a little bit about myself. I have 2 young boys, 12 and going on 8, and I've been married for 21 years. She'd kill me if I didn't mention that.
Nice. One thing that stands out to me in this story is that you, after leaving the Navy, you decided to go to the art school. So what prompted you to do that? And is it your passion, or maybe like what's the background on that?
So my dad was an artist when he was young, and he pushed me to draw. So I've always been into art, drawing, and all kinds of sculpting and painting and in that direction. So I wanted to look into furthering the art career after that. And then I decided to switch in about 2nd or 3rd semester to go to criminal justice. But I've always had a passion for art. Actually, of all things, art has helped me throughout my career, and we can get into that a little bit later. But looking at objects intently for hours and hours on end to kind of grasp its negative and positive space, to get perspective, to the attention to detail on every aspect of the object, really helped in not only my Navy career, but my Marine Corps career and special operations, because it really allows you to see a different perspective on a lot of problems, if that makes sense.
Can you give me a few examples on how this technique or this way of looking at things helped you in your deployments or in your service?
Typically, it's more the creative side. If you look like, say, we get a mission on a certain objective, or we see a potential problem with a crossing point. It kind of allows you to take a different perspective from a more of a 50,000-foot view, as opposed to being in a tactical situation right there on the ground. Looking at not only human behavior, allowing you to look at your mission set a little bit differently really has helped me a lot throughout my career.
All right. So let's now talk about leadership. Do you have a leadership philosophy or some kind of a approach to leading people? And did it evolve over time throughout your service in the Navy, Marine Corps, and doing business after retirement?
It has developed over time. I can say throughout my career, I've had probably the best leaders anyone can ask for. Starting from in 3-5, the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, my platoon commander, battalion commanders, and then when I moved on to MARSOC in the initial stage, the first person I met was they call him Chunks Padilla. He's a legend in the reconnaissance community, and then through the rest of the instructors that were on staff, Bellums, Mopal, Andy Christians, just phenomenal. Not only operators, but fathers, family men. They led by example through and through. And then that gave me the opportunity to, or pushed me to move on to the individual training course and selection. So as far as personal philosophies, I just go back to planning, rehearsing, and identifying contingencies. Everything that I basically learned in the School of Infantry is what I still use today. Lead by example. So that means I'm there on time, early, physically fit, mentally strong, spiritually straight, but every mission must be planned to a T. And when I say mission, that can be, I'm going to the store to get my groceries. Do I necessarily have to rehearse that? But what could be some contingencies that I run into? And that's every mission throughout the day or the year, even today in what I currently do. As far as the people, trust your people. You hired them for a reason, and everyone has a say. So from the junior guy to the senior guy, everyone's experience is very valuable. So going into a team, I entered the Marine Corps at 27, and I went through selection at 32, I believe. So most everyone was, if not everyone, was younger than me, and their life experience made the team much better. As far as a leadership style, that's basically what I'm looking at. Lead by example. Every leader in the Marine Corps leads by example. I can't overemphasize that. From their appearance to their fitness, to their professionalism, to their knowledge base of not only tactical information, but the administrative. They're able to instruct you, inform you, and guide you in the right direction. The original contact that I had at MARSOC in 2006 was Chunks Padilla, who welcomed me into the community. At that command, I learned more from the leadership there than I really did throughout my first 4 years. As far as my personal philosophy, I had an opportunity to see what worked, what didn't work I'm sure everyone who's been on your podcast, you included, have worked under leaders who aren't very effective, and then some that excel at certain things. My primary is lead by example, similar to all the Marines that I had the opportunity to serve with. They continue to compete every day, day in and day out, continue to excel or try to excel at least 1% every day, not only in their personal life, their professional life, whether it's they're out on the range shooting, ruck march, and improving themselves with military institute. On top of that, you have to trust your people, because obviously you hired them for a reason, and we need, as leaders, need to place them where they will excel. Find their strengths, know your people, and place them where they excel. There's nothing wrong with placing them where they may falter, because we learn more from our failures than we do from our success. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with placing them where they could potentially fall on their face, if you will, as long as it doesn't take the organization down. We have to understand that it'll never go as planned. We can plan a mission or we can plan a job perfectly, but as you know, in your career, nothing ever goes as planned. As soon as as soon as the job starts, the mission starts, things will obviously fail, and that's why we have a pace plan. I'll go into that here in a bit. The other key factor is to keep everyone informed. The last thing you want is one of your people to say, "Well, I didn't know." The communication lines have to be open and free. And I enjoy, and I've always enjoyed, a bottom-up approach to planning. So that's that's basically how I instill my leadership.
Yeah, amazing. And let's say you're on a battlefield or in a high stakes situation where um, a lot is at stake, and you need to make decisions that may have severe consequences if you do something wrong. And there are, emotions and panic and all those kinds of things. How do you manage yourself and your team in that environment? And some of what you told me about art and having that 50,000 feet perspective, I think that's part of that. But in general, do you have advice to how to deal with those kinds of situations?
I do. Every mission should be planned, regardless of what it is. And when I say mission, that can be absolutely anything. For us, that we would plan our mission in depth, in detail. Now, there's longer portions of planning. We can go into 24 to 48 hours, or there's some that are spontaneous, basically a time on target. Person's there, we have to go get them, right? All of it comes down to planning. We have to plan it. With the planning, we have to rehearse. And now, as we do the planning, the rehearsals, and we plan our contingencies, right? We have our courses of action, and that should typically come from our junior guys or people, if you will. We start to mitigate all of the chaos, the uncertainty on the battle space, right? So we're looking for three things at all times. And I say this on a daily basis. I train military, law enforcement, and civilians at Asymmetric Solutions. And it all boils down to, especially in a chaotic environment, is know your mission, have a clear intent, and know the end state. So your mission can be anything, right? As a software engineer, which I'm not going to pretend I know the ins and outs of software engineering, right? What is a typical mission for a software engineer? So you get one single job. What will your mission be?
It's interesting because when you work for a company, the mission could be like to build a product, to deliver a solution within the deadline. But the other side of it could be, I'm here to get paid. Because in the military, it's not as much transactional as it is in the business world. But if we focus on the mission itself, I'd say as a software engineer, my goal, what I was hired for, is to build the software, the solution within the time frame with certain, quality standards, collaborate with my team. And in certain situations, if you're a senior software engineer, you want to lead other team members and be proactive about certain initiatives. So that's the framework.
Right. So the person that hires you gives you the goal. This is what I want. Okay. That now you have a mission on such and such a date, right? They give you a basic deadline. I need you to build this, and they give you the parameters left and right. Maybe they're kind of ambiguous, right? We plan it. They've given you the intent. By this date, I need this, right? Throughout that process, I'm sure that there's a team, or you collaborate with other team members and you adjust it. So that would be your courses of action, so that you have a general manager or a person who's at overall in charge says, this is the person who is the overall decider. But you and another software engineer have these two separate concepts. You present them, and maybe that senior manager or whatever you call them says, I want 10% of yours and 90% of this one. So you collaborate, you bring it together, and then you present it. At that time, you're fulfilling the end state is the product, correct? So that eliminates the uncertainty. So once you have the plan set, we've already established that the plan never goes as planned, right? Once we hit the ground, whatever mission that your boss gives you isn't necessarily going to go the way that you planned it.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that might make this harder, especially if I am a leader and I have an ego. I have my own vision. I think I know how things work. And this ego may be in a way of achieving the goal successfully, or if it's a battlefield situation, this might mean lives are at stake of your team. So how do I, as a leader, make sure that my ego isn't in the way of the efficient decision making and getting things done and achieving that goal?
That's I would say the biggest question that you face is how do you remove ego out of everything? Because it has its grasp on absolutely everything that we do, does it not?
Yeah.
But with your boss manager's intent or our commanding officer's intent and a mission statement, it's something that I can't deviate from. My bias, my ego can't take grasp of it. I have to accept it as fact. I have to take it and complete it without an ego, right? So my idea might be the best idea, and Danny has a great idea, right? It has nothing to do with the end state. We have to complete without worrying about each other's feelings in my business. Like, I'm not speaking from a corporate standpoint by any means, but that's taking ego out of everything, right? Law enforcement, military, give me a Amazon, whatever. I've noticed that about myself getting out, like as an older guy, getting kids and all that kind of stuff. You find yourself, the more you read, the more you find that you have to understand that you're looking at it from a certain perspective, and that in order to accomplish your mission or have a happy life, you have to somehow remove it from everything that you do.
Yeah, so focus on the goal and the end goal, on what you're trying to do, and work together as a team, as a almost as a single entity with different people as different parts of it, but ultimately you want to achieve the same thing in the organization. Yeah, great perspective. And before we finish, I like to let my guest give advice to younger listeners, let's say in their early 20s, maybe even imagine yourself back then, maybe even before you joined the Navy. What kind of advice you'd give those people?
I look back at as we were graduating from my individual training course, we had a retired sergeant major come in and he said, once I passed selection of a certain organization, he was all excited, as you would be, right? You graduate, you got your master's, you are ecstatic. The world is now open to you. You imagine you set your goal and you achieved your goal. Now what? What's the next step? The world is open to you. The words that he said to us, do what needs to be done. Now, what does that mean to you?
Well, I feel like everyone knows deep down what they need to do, even, on a day-to-day level, like taking out your trash or whatever, doing things like that. If we look into ourselves, there is always something that we are hesitant to do, but we know that that needs to be done. And I think this is what you're in that is. Would that be accurate?
Exactly. That was perfect. Absolutely perfect. So you get out and especially when you graduate a course or you achieve just imagine your dream, whatever that might be a doctorate of whatever it might be, right? You graduate selection, you're without cursing. You're the man or the person. That's it. You achieve your goal. You're expecting everything to come your way now. I expect when I watch my guys, I look for individual actions. And like you said, you might be tactically proficient. You might be the best computer programmer, right? But it's the individual actions that really count and show your character, like taking out the trash. Are you the person who balances that last piece of trash on the trash pile, or are you going to take the trash out, right? Are you coming home after a long day and immediately going and not taking care of the stuff that you don't want to take care of, like, right, schoolwork or cleaning the car or cleaning your gear or whatever that might be? You're going in and taking a shower and you're putting your feet up and drinking or whatever that might be. You're taking it easy. So the individual actions really, really matter to me. They do. It's the very, very small stuff. So do what needs to be done. Identify your goal. And the second one would be identify your goal and find small incremental ways to achieve that goal and create benchmarks for that goal. Get biweekly, monthly, right? So you want to get your doctorate. How do you get there? What are the steps you have to get there? What do you have to do in that process, ensuring that your life outside while you're doing that, right? So I'm going to selection. I ensure that I eat right. I don't drink. I stay away from the police. I don't get arrested. Doing everything that I need to do, taking the right steps in the Marine Corps or the Navy or the Army to get to that goal. But finding benchmarks, individual benchmarks that you can say, I achieved this goal, and it makes you feel good, right? A little dopamine. And then what's my next goal? And then I achieve the next goal and I continue until I meet that goal. Know that your experience is valuable, regardless of your age. That's very, very important. Coming from an old guy in the teams, some of my best guys were 19, 20, 21 years old. Everyone has personal lifetime or personal and lifetime experience, be it 18 years or 20, 25, 40 years. Everyone has experience. All that experience is very, very valuable to an organization or a team, right? Where did you grow up?
I am an immigrant. I came all the way from Ukraine before I came here.
Right. So in your organization, in your team, that experience is extremely valuable. And don't look at yourself as, hey, I'm fresh out of college or I'm fresh to a team. I'm a young person. What do I have to offer? Right. The only experience that I have is a bachelor's. You have life experience that is very valuable. You can be the best the vehicle, or mobility person. You can be the best. A portion of computer programming that you've never experienced, right? They do one thing in Europe as opposed to what we do over here. Like I said, I'm not a computer. I'm lucky that I turn the computer on sometimes. And then lastly, do hard things. Don't be afraid of doing very, very difficult things. Now, I'm not a doctor, so before you go out and do a marathon and say, Joe told me to do a marathon, consult a doctor, but that can be physical, mental, or emotional. So when I say physical, obviously, start getting into training, some type of training, martial arts, exercise, rock climbing, any of that type of stuff. As far as mental, go back to school, learn a new skill, take up the guitar. I don't know. And then spiritual, whatever you believe in, that is typically my baseline for all my self-defense type of classes. That is my baseline across the board. So physical, spiritual, and emotional strength. And then compete. Find someone or a team to compete against, and it will make you better.
All right. Well, a lot of advice. Thank you for amazing stories and for spending your time with me today. Definitely a lot of it is applicable to corporate America and software engineering or whatever else in the business world. Appreciate your advice and yeah, great time today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.